Let's take a look at the papers. The Guardian is leading with the United Nations saying there is fear and trepidation as more than 100,000 people flee Rafah after Israel increased strikes on Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to fight with our fingernails, he says. The Daily Mail reports on what it calls the worst whooping cough outbreak in 40 years. The paper says 5 babies have died and more than 3,000 cases have been reported so far this year.
Look at the Times, reporting comments from the Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan, who says school truancy is up by a fifth on Fridays, saying that 50,000 more children are absent at the end of the week compared to Mondays. The Minister says it's down to parents working from home.
Now, big crowds gathered in South Korea yesterday to look up at the sky and witness a spectacle, a drone show. Now, there is extreme precision in the planning here. That looks good, doesn't it? So 4,500 drones meticulously set up by hand. It's part of the Korea Drone Expo. And there was some quite impressive imagery created. Those are drones.
So they're all flying independently and then...
Yeah, and then this is a drone made by drones. And look at the hands. Can you see the hands? The hands holding the drone. That, you've got to admit, that is pretty impressive.
That is very clever. Very clever.
I mean, I think that's better than a fireworks display. And animals won't get upset. Because I don't think they'll make as much noise.
It is very beautiful. Just a couple of... just a thought. From one of the inside pages, there's been a lot of talk this week because it's the anniversary of Sir Roger Bannister's breaking the 4-minute mile, which at a time was just such an extraordinary achievement. There's been a lot of coverage on it. On the face of it, I would not have said there was any crossover between his life and mine. Almost none. But then I discovered today...
There's always a connection.
Well, I discovered today that he started the day of his race, he started the day with a bowl of porridge. And that's what I do. So that's the only connection there is. Above and beyond that, he was an extraordinary athlete. And there's a report. The reason I'm mentioning this at all, bless you, is that there's a new report where they have looked at the 200 men, and they're all men, who first broke the 4-minute mile. So Roger Bannister started, and they looked at the 200 men who did it straight after him. And they have found that, on average, they lived 5 years longer than what would be the average age of death at the time. And bearing in mind, this is in the the British Journal of Sports Medicine. They've looked at it because they were looking at the fears around people doing extreme sports. And when Roger Bannister did his mile, and he was a medic himself, colleagues and experts said, if you do that, your heart will explode. Yeah, they warned him that is what will happen if you try and do that thing. And, yeah, they've just looked into all these people and how long they lived, and there is a marked correlation.
There's your connection, though, as well. And there's your inspiration, isn't it? Because you eat porridge first thing in the morning, like Bannister, and if he's going to add 5 years in his life, now you can go and run and try to break the 4-minute mile. There you go. And then you've got an extra 5 years. Job done.
Good morning from BBC London. I'm Victoria Hollins. A key section of the M25 will close again for the entire weekend as work to improve the UK's busiest motorway continues. It's shutting between junctions 9 and 10 in both directions from 9 this evening until early on Monday morning. Drivers are being told to expect delays and warned they could incur ULEZ charges if they don't stick to the official diversion through Surrey. A man's being held on suspicion of murder after a woman was stabbed to death in broad daylight in Edgware yesterday morning. Emergency services were called to Burnt Oak Broadway shortly before midday. The victim, believed to be in her 60s, died at the scene. A 22-year-old man was arrested in the Colindale area. Now, it's been compared to trying to fix a car while it's driving along a busy road. So, how hard is it to move an old intensive care unit to a brand new wing? Well, they've been finding out at Newham University Hospital. 14 critically ill patients were transferred from cramped wards to a purpose-built facility on the other side of the building. The move involved 5 years of planning with the aim of providing better care.
Now this patient is in the room behind me with a window, lots of space, much better environment, and much safer place to be. And in terms of rehab and recovery, this is a world apart from where they were before.
Millwall Football Club has reached a deal with the local authority which allows it to move forward with regeneration plans. The agreement with Lewisham Council grants the club a new lease and also gives it permission to develop the land around the den. Millwall said it ensures the Lions remain at the heart of the community and will help them to build new sources of income.